Hi, everyone. I'm Taylor Comblusier, a mining analyst at Red Cloud Securities. This session of our Oktoberfest Fall Mining Showcase will feature Cordoba Minerals Corp. Cordoba Minerals is a company focused on the exploration, development, and acquisition of copper and gold projects. The company is developing its 100% owned San Matias copper, gold, silver project in Colombia, and it also holds a 25% interest in the Perseverance copper project in Arizona, which it's exploring through a JV and earn-in agreement. From the company, we have with us Sarah Armstrong-Montoya, who's the president and CEO, and also Mark Gibson, who's the chief operating officer. I'll note that if any attendees have questions throughout the presentation, to just type them in using the Q&A link, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah and Mark to guide you through the story.
Thank you, Taylor. Good morning, everybody. As Taylor just mentioned, I'm Sarah Armstrong-Montoya, the CEO of Cordoba Minerals Corp, and with me I have Mark Gibson, the Chief Operating Officer. Cordoba is a copper-gold development project with district-scale exploration potential. We're listed on both the TSXV and the OTC. We have two main projects. One is the Perseverance project, which is a copper exploration project in Arizona. And the second project we have is the San Matias project, which also has the Alacran deposit, and that is a copper, gold, and silver development project. The San Matias project is where our focus has been for the last couple of years. On the Alacran deposit, we're currently underway doing a pre-feasibility study, and we expect to have results announced on that in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We have two main shareholders. Cordoba is part of the Ivanhoe Electric Group. It is the founder, chairman, and CEO of which is Mr. Robert Friedland, and they have just over 63%. We have our Chinese partners, JCHX, and they have 19.9% with an anti-dilution right. So our share price today is actually sitting at about 62 cents. That's probably as a result of our announcement yesterday on the Perseverance project to start drilling. Mark will speak a little bit to the Perseverance project as we get further along. You can see over here to the right, sorry, ran back one. You can see over here to the right is the shareholding that I just mentioned. I think very, very quickly it's important to note here that Ivanhoe Electric didn't really intend to get to this sort of large shareholding during difficult times, and being a junior exploration company, we're very fortunate to have them backstopping our finance, and so we're able to advance through our studies and the project and the pre-feasibility study. At one stage they were up to around 80%, and so we brought in the Chinese, and they're back down to around 63%, as you can see there. Next slide, Ran. Both Mark and myself have over 10 years experience with the group. Mark has over 30 years experience in the industry, and is also concurrently serving as the Chief Operating Officer for Ivanhoe Electric, so the majority shareholder, and Kaizen Discovery, as well as Cordoba. And you'll see also Charles Forster's here. He was the founding geologist on OT with Robert in 1994. Next slide, Ren. We have a very experienced board of directors, sort of 30 to 40 years experience, very strong technically, and we have a Colombian businessman on there as well, Luis Valencia, with very strong government ties. Over to you, Mark.
Yeah, so the deposit is this hill that you can see, and that makes it a nice low strip ratio, because essentially we'll be taking this hill, turn it upside down, and that'll be the open pit. When we did the PEA in 2019, we had a good, robust economics. We had a staged startup ramping up to about 25,000 tons per year of copper. And based on those economics, we started a pre-feasibility study for a couple of reasons. Firstly, we wanted to tighten up on the engineering. And second of all, we wanted to submit what's called a PTO, which is the mining license application here in Colombia. And the engineering standards required from both is about the same. Next, please, Ren. So it is 100% owned. We've got a very good large license package, both around Alacran and elsewhere, so nearly 1,700 square kilometers in total. The resources we currently have is about 100 million tons split between 3 deposits, the bulk of which is in Alacran, but smaller deposits at Montiel East, Montiel West, and Costa Azul. And in 2019, we had a small startup of 8,000 tons per day, ramping up to 16,000 tons, giving us a 23-year life of mine. Next, please, Ryan. The economics were robust at the time, so we had a $210 million after-tax NPV and a 20% IRR. At spot prices, obviously today that would be much, much higher, and that's supporting us as we go into our PFS. Next, please, Ryan. We've been doing a number of trade-off studies during the pre-feasibility, and I won't go into too much detail other than to say that things like the metallurgy have come out comfortably ahead of expectations. They have confirmed the geotechnical rock mass characterization, so we've confirmed the PEA assumptions and the design there. We are doing a lot of work on the throughput studies. We think the market is much more ready for higher CapEx upfront, and so we're doing some trade-offs between CapEx, OpEx, and NPV. And importantly, we've also looked at improving our tailing solutions. We had a conventional tailing solution in 2019. We're now moving much more towards thickened tailings. They've shown excellent results in the laboratory, and that would actually result in lower CapEx, a small footprint, and of course a higher safety factor because thickened tailings don't flow. So it's a much more stable mass. We have also been working further on these unquantifiable carbonate-based metal veins. We announced these stellar results in 2017 of 4 kilograms per ton gold. Unfortunately, these things are not traceable along strike down dips. So we keep hitting them, but not in the areas predicted, not at the thicknesses predicted, and not at the grades predicted. So we had to exclude them from the resource, but we keep hitting them. We know they're there, and they represent some significant upside that is not currently in the resource. Next, please, Ryan. Upside potential as well exists in our exploration portfolio. We do have a large license portfolio. 150 square kilometers have already been approved, and 1,600 square kilometers remain under application. We have not explored much of that, and the security situation in Colombia continues to improve, allowing us access to more and more ground. A number of targets that we've got along strike include Alacran North and William. We've seen evidence of a skarn deposit. We've seen continued evidence of a porphyry at depth below Alacran, and we're also exploring further to the south in Colombia, where we do see porphyry mineralization as well, close to things like Marmato and La Colosa. Back to you, Sarah.
Great. So we have 12 communities within the area of interest. We have a mobile social team on the ground, constantly going between them. So we have an open dialogue and strong relationships with them. Of those 12 communities, we will have to relocate 3 of those for building and constructing the mine. 2 of them are our responsibility under the environmental impact assessment study. The Alacran community, they have been there illegally mining for the past 30 years. They are actually the responsibility of the government, but we established a workshop with the government about 18 months ago. And we are going to contribute economically to relocate and build new housing for the Alacran community. Otherwise, if we do leave that to the government, we're going to come time to building the mine, and we'll have sort of 700 to 1,000 people there. Most of the people within those 12 communities want to work with the company. We have quite a few working with us right now. I mean, obviously, that we have peaks and of when we have more employees with us, depending on the work we have going on the ground. Obviously, much more when we're drilling. There won't be enough people within all of those 12 communities or the municipality to fulfill our job requirements. So we will start training and upskilling workers as of next year to start preparing them for those who want to work, which is probably about 70 to 80% of the people within the area of interest. And one other thing to note here quickly, we do have a program as well and a dedicated team to legalize and formalize our artisanal miners where they meet the requirements and they want to do that. So we're obviously really focusing on environmental standards, safety standards. A lot of them are still using mercury and other dangerous chemicals as the like. So to date, we've benefited around 100 families with that. Thanks, Ryan. Back to you, Mark.
So turning then to the Perseverance project, this is currently 25% owned, and we can go up to 80%. It's a large property in a good part of Arizona. Next, please, Ryan. We have an earn-in agreement with Bell Copper that we signed in 2018. You can see the terms at the bottom there. We are currently in phase 2, and the intention is with this drilling that we've announced yesterday, we'll be completing that phase 2 commitment, and we'll therefore have 51% of the project. It's a chunky project, 13,000 acres in a good part of Arizona. It's a long strike from Baghdad, from Mineral Park, and from Resolution. We do see some geological similarities with those deposits as well. Next, please, Ryan. So the project lies fairly close to Kingman. We've got gas, we've got water, we've got an interstate highway close by, so good supporting infrastructure. It is at the junction between the Colorado Plateau and the Basin and Range faulting, which has an implication for the exploration that I'll touch on in a moment. The reason why this has been underexplored is that it's hard. It's actually lying underneath modern gravels that have been deposited on top of any prospective geology. So you're really not looking at any rocks outcropping. You have to rely on geophysics. Thankfully, the controlling shareholder, Ivanhoe Electric, has been developing those geophysical solutions for the past decade, and that gives us a good advantage in this environment. Next, please. The Wheeler Wash is outcropping at the top of the mountain in the bottom left there. It's a porphyry root zone. It's got chalcosidic mineralization. And most geologists who had looked at it said, you've got a porphyry root, it's at the top of a mountain, therefore it's gone, it's been eroded away. Tim Marsh, however, recognized that you have the basin and range faulting, and therefore, if that faulting had taken and preserved a porphyry, it would actually be in the valley covered by gravels. So for the past 15 years, he's been drilling, sometimes with his own dollars, sometimes with partner dollars, the 20 holes that you can see there. Next, please, Ran. We funded K20, and a couple of years ago, we announced these results. We had nearly 600 meters of elevated copper. We saw chalcopyrite veining, we saw bornite, we saw hydrothermal magnetite. All of these things told us that the fluids that you would expect to see around a porphyry had flown through this rock mass. We were close to something, and on the basis of that, we then did a magnetotelluric survey. The results you can see in this slide, it outlined two very clear anomalies. One we're calling the northern anomaly, one the eastern anomaly. And we are deciding right now to be drilling the northern anomaly. You can see the drill holes that we're planning on the right-hand side there. So the announcement yesterday was that we have collared those holes, and drilling right now has started as of today. So we're looking forward to those results. Next, please. Back to you, Sarah.
So here we just have in summary our targeted milestones coming up. So as we mentioned earlier, we expect to be announcing the pre-feasibility results in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We would then be going on to starting sort of a tender process to lock down our consultants and contractors for the feasibility study, which we're hoping to start in about February of 2022. That should take around 12 to 14 months and will be followed by an investment decision. And we'll be hoping to construct the mine in the last quarter of 2023. With current studies, the intended period of construction is around 2.5 years. And Mark just mentioned on Perseverance, we made the announcement yesterday. We are drilling there now for our phase 2 earning, which will take us through to 51% ownership. We need to complete that milestone by April of next year, but we're well on track to do that and should do that before that April deadline. Next slide, Ran. So where are we right now? We just completed a 15 million Canadian dollar rights issue. We're sitting on about $12 million of that left in the bank. That will take us through to finish the pre-feasibility study and the PTO that Mark mentioned, which is the Colombian equivalent, and it is one of the 2 permits required to build and construct the mine, which we'll be filing here next month. It will also allow us to do exploration on both of our projects. So we will be announcing coming up soon some further exploration work at Alacran, and obviously we're now at working at Perseverance and also cover our G&A. So towards the end of the year, we will need to start the discussions for fundraising for our feasibility study, which contain quite an intensive drill program. We're looking somewhere between 45 and 55,000 meters of resource drilling. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Great, thanks a lot, Sarah and Mark. So we do have time for a quick question here. You mentioned the drilling just started up at Perseverance. What is the timeline for getting those 2 holes completed?
Do you go, Mark? Sorry.
Yeah, so that'll obviously depend on drill progress, Taylor. So right now we're doing an RC pre-collar. So we're just going through a lot of the unconsolidated gravels that cover the prospective geology using percussion. So once we've reached the bedrock, we'll be putting in some casing and then moving to diamond drilling. So I'd expect that we'll probably be diamond drilling in about 10 days time, and really then the depth of that hole depends on the results. So K20 took a couple of months to reach down 1,400 meters. So potentially we could be drilling for as much as 4 months, but we're hoping to expedite that and be returning results to market sooner.
Okay, perfect. With that, we are just out of time. So thank you very much, Sarah and Mark, for presenting.